Today, in conversation with Dr. Sidharth Sahni, we're going to discuss all things nutrition with certified nutritionist Sonalika Singh. Stay tuned.
Hi, Doc. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, Sonalika?
Good morning. I'm good too. Today we're just going to dive into it. We're
Yeah, sure.
talking a lot about a few things. I want to touch about a few topics that I also constantly discuss and talk about in my videos. And I want people out there to sort of know and understand that these things are very imperative in our daily life. So, since my forte is nutrition and food, I think we're just going to first begin with that. So there's
Sure.
a lot of talk about calories and there's a lot of talk about the quantities of food. So what's your take on quality of the product we're consuming over the quantity of what we're consuming of, say,
Okay.
a differently quality product?
Nobody tells you that if you stop eating ultra processed foods, which is a lot of junk food. Okay, so the junk into the junk food is by the addition of processed foods, which have a lot of additives, which have a lot of extra salts, which have a lot of artificial flavors, and which are cooked in poison. Okay. And
Yeah.
nobody mentions that the new trend is no trans fat. Okay, if it's no trans fat, then how do you cook it? And the biggest myth, which was expressed by came from various sources, including the American Heart Association, was the fact that animal fat, which is particularly things like butter and ghee, are bad for our health and they lead to
Yeah.
all form of diseases,
Yeah.
which has
Yeah.
actually now been proved completely rubbish. So you can have um, anything that you want to eat if it's
Yeah.
produced fresh, cook it in animal fat or drizzle it with animal fat if you want to have it raw, and stop counting your calories. So I don't think it's the number of calories really
Yeah.
that matters. I think you should be sensible about not stuffing your face with anything, but
Absolutely.
just make sure that it's whole, it's not processed, and it's cooked in the right. So this is a myth that was propounded about 60 odd years ago in the US. It started from there, the drum beating about these seed oils, vegetable oils, refined oils. And somehow it got the traction to
Yeah.
promote that. Your entire I was going to say your entire fast food industry. It's not just the fast food industry, unfortunately. It's almost the entire food industry across the world,
Correct.
save a few exceptions that are cooking all their meals in vegetable oils. So whether you go to a fancy restaurant in India across the board, uh, or you go to the Ready Wala, the one who's selling it, outside on the road, they all use the same oil to cook. And
Yeah.
what has been the result? The result has been that we've actually introduced diseases into our system that were either non-existent or used to exist right at the fringe of
Yeah.
of healthcare. We've created this entire um, you know um, biosphere of almost
Yeah.
chronic disease that cannot be cured,
Yeah.
but somehow managed. So I mean, I think I'll go out on a limb and say that it is, um, it's almost like a collusion between the food companies and the pharmaceutical pharma industry, where nobody wants us to get better,
Yeah.
because the more we go visit a doctor, I mean, I realize that a lot of diseases exist because maybe potentially we give the wrong advice.
Yeah.
And if we told you do it this way right from the beginning, and it's not just in India; it's all across the board. I have, it's sad because I have a son who religiously follows my advice, and he's also a lot into nutrition and fitness. And he called me up crying. He said, "I can't order any takeout. I'm being forced to
Yeah.
cook at home because
Yeah.
most of these places, except for one, uh, don't cook in olive oil. They all cook
Yeah.
in vegetable oil. So it's, as I'm
Yeah.
saying, it's not just a problem here; it's a problem
Yeah.
everywhere. And
Everywhere.
the three oils that people think are very healthy for us and we should cook all our meals in: um, rice bran, soybean, and canola. Let me tell
Yeah.
you, they are complete poisons for you, especially
Yeah.
canola. And canola and soy are the two most commercially used, oils as well. So
Yeah.
uh, canola is one double bond away from dynamite. Don't worry about the calories. Worry
Yeah.
about whether your food is processed, whether your
Yeah.
food is cooked in the right medium. The calories will take care of themselves because
Yeah.
it's really funny that when people talk about calories, how do you limit? Uh, if you cook an animal fat,
Mm.
okay, or the right type of oil, it not only tastes better, but you actually feel fuller. So
Yeah.
the those fats send a signal to your brain, you're full, stop eating. So that's what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
calories will take care of themselves because you end
Yeah.
up not eating a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think in essence, what you're saying is very, very similar to my ethos as well, from what I talk about your gut health, because all your diseases, your basic functionality of your body, like the foundation is your gut. So you put the correct things in your body, you look better, you feel better, you're disease free. And ultimately, the excessive parameters attached with the concepts of health, you don't have to reach that point because you're solving the root issue. You're sort of
Exactly.
addressing the root problem and you're taking care of it from the very beginning. So you're sort of hands free to live your life and, do things
No,
happily without stress or without like a second burden on your head.
no, I couldn't agree more with you, Sonalika, because I mean, people have told me, so if we do this, does that mean we're
Yeah.
never going to get ill or we're never going to
Yeah.
have a problem? The answer is no. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, if you look back at it, we're a product of natural engineering. Okay. And
Yeah.
rule of thumb, anything that gets constructed will have wear and tear on it, all the
Yeah.
time. The fact that we're
Yeah.
standing up is we're
Yeah.
defying gravity all the time. So when you
Yeah.
do that, there is wear and tear on your joints. But how can you take care of that? By eating properly, by eating in the right medium. I mean, there's so many studies, and it's fascinating how it's just been shrouded so beautifully to make it appear that it's not as simple as maybe what I'm saying or what you've been saying and what others are saying. It's
Yeah.
just it is very simple.
Yeah.
Look at your parents, your grandparents. Look at your generation, which is coming in. It
Yeah.
is it's affecting everyone. So
Yeah.
the increase of dementia, the increase of
Yeah.
Alzheimer's disease,
Yeah.
birth defects in children. Uh, Forget about even autism to a certain extent. And people say, oh, but there are multiple causes of autism. Yes, there are. There can be. All right. But at least prevent what you can, control what you can. And so things like learning difficulties,
Yeah.
dyslexia,
Yeah.
cognitive dysfunction, it is all down to this lack of proper knowledge of nutrition, because what you started with, that your gut, if your gut is healthy, you will always be healthy. You will not get a lot of the chronic problems that you have, and
Right.
even acute. I mean, the fact that if your gut's healthy, your immune system will be running on turbocharge. So
Yeah.
the fact that you will not acquire commonly seen infections even seasonally. So, there's a lot of benefits to actually just structuring your kitchen a little better
Yeah.
and yes, it is slightly more costly. It's not a lot. I was reading somewhere that a survey done in the US by one of the restaurant consultants
Mm.
revealed that if the right oils were used by a restaurant versus what is currently being used by the majority, the difference to the customer would be an increase of 50 cents. So you'd rather invest, as you said, at the cause, make
Yeah,
sure you're doing the right things, and don't end up in that spectrum.
yeah. So it's in essence, it's about being educated about the correct choices and then following through
Yeah, it is.
without, having to question that, oh, why am I investing this amount of money in this? Or would I not rather invest in, say, X or Z? So
Yeah,
in essence, it's about, being very aware, making the correct choices,
yeah,
ultimately, which is going to lead to a happier, normal health. I mean, I want to go out on a limb on it and say normal because that is normal, and the normal is not what we're leading today,
yeah.
which
It's
actually brings me to my next point about how common and how so-called normal, like you said, diseases have become, and also the risks of cardiovascular disease and how normal it's become for us to just, sort of rely on excessive wear and tear of workout. Whereas in comparison to what we are putting into our bodies, it's like there's only so much you can burn from your body,
yeah.
right?
Cholesterol wasn't good for you. Why
Yeah,
would your body produce it? Okay, so
yeah,
we don't produce poison. Nature does not
yeah,
produce poison. Human
yeah,
beings do. Okay, human beings do. B, you'd never be able to have any hormones
yeah.
because most of them are made by cholesterol.
Yeah, exactly.
You will never be able to digest any fat because it's all done. People, very often I get calls saying, "Oh, doc, my triglycerides are so high," and
Yeah,
I like, fine, your triglycerides are high. What's your HDL?
yeah,
Then they say, "Oh, my LDL is high." Fine. There are two types of LDLs. Okay, uh, LDL-A, apoprotein A, and B. So the LDL apoprotein A is actually very beneficial for us because it
yeah,
helps your brain, it helps your gut, it helps your heart, it helps your arteries. The B one is the one that we've managed to manufacture all
yeah,
these years through this rubbish concept of vegetable oil.
yeah,
And if you cut back on taking in the wrong types of fat,
yeah,
a lot of sort of lipid profiles. It's become the rage now, especially in my generation. Everybody goes and does it.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, if you eat right, your
yeah,
HDL will increase naturally. You don't have to. There's nothing we can do. The vegetable oils themselves uh, are so central to the cardiac story, along with sugar, because of the when they're heated. It's basic high school chemistry. Okay, these are all made up of what we call PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, are PUFAs bad for us? No, we've got a lot of our own body creating its own PUFAs.
yeah,
30% of our brains, between the connections between the brain cells, are made up of polyunsaturated fatty acids. But they're natural and they're very flexible and they do a lot of good. All these vegetable oils, when you and the seeds, really sad when you look at them naturally. Soybean, properly cultivated soybean, not industrially
yeah,
manufactured soybean, is lovely. It's a great
yeah,
source of protein. It's a great source of omega 3. Flax seeds. They're all sunflower seeds, safflower seeds. They're fabulous. Natural oils. The moment you convert that seed into an oil, you you're actually one molecule away. I mean, the classic example, margarine. Margarine chemically is one molecule away from plastic. Okay,
yeah.
so like eating plastic, might as well eat the bottle that you're
Go for
drinking.
it. Yeah,
So the moment you heat that,
yeah,
they're made of double and triple bonds. These bonds break very quickly. When
yeah,
any chemical reaction happens, it releases what are called free radicals. Now,
yes,
these free radicals go and attack our um, normal polyunsaturated fatty acids and
yeah,
convert them into zombies. It's like a nuclear reaction setting off in your body, and
yeah,
that's what damages blood vessels.
yeah,
That's what causes unstable plaques. That's what
yeah,
it can actually rupture a blood vessel. It's that
yeah,
intense. And
Yeah.
we're happy to go and get a blood test done. We're happy to go and get a CT angio done or an echo
Yeah.
done. We're not happy to accept the fact that I'm not going to use this medium because it is
Yeah.
inherently bad for me.
Yeah.
You can work out as much as you want. You can work out 7 days a week, which also, by the way, is not good
Yeah.
for us. And you can look nice, you can do whatever, but you're not going to be fit because your
Right.
fitness on the inside is chiefly influenced by what you put into your body. And if you're putting in the wrong
100%.
thing, you can sweat it out as much as you want in the gym.
Yeah.
You, your risk of cardiovascular disease, of a heart attack, of high blood pressure, of stroke is still the same as it was before
Yeah.
you entered the gym. Of course, the fact that you're in a gym itself is brilliant. Okay,
Yeah.
so don't get me wrong. Any sort of exercise is fine.
It's
I'm good
good.
with
Yeah.
it's the old adage of obesity doesn't run in the families.
Yeah.
Obesity does because no one runs in the family. So,
Yeah.
right. So exercise is vital, but so is diet. I mean,
100%.
it is. I mean, if your fitness is about 20 to 30% exercise and 70% diet,
Yeah.
and proper foods, so and prevent future damage as well.
Yeah. 100%. No, I think everything what you've broken down very briefly, in essence, is something that unfortunately people are unaware of.
Yeah.
Right. So this putting in and burning out concept, which I began with and then you circled back to, is something that people need to understand. Also, because I feel like it directly has an impact on your mental health, like your
Yeah.
food, unknowingly plus knowingly. So either it's complete unawareness or it's complete excessive stressful awareness. These two factors really play havoc on your mental health. So, I'm sure that you'd face a lot of patients who would have come to you with a sort of, messed up thought process or, just a low self-esteem or just like some other mental health, which is getting impacted either by their food or their food is impacting or their mental health is impacting their food.
No, I think it's the other way around, Sonalika. Unknowingly, and this is something which is really frightening.
Yeah.
We were all worried about cardiovascular cancer.
Yeah.
What we don't understand is that unknowingly, we are causing great damage.
Yeah.
So, our brains. Um, the only two things in our body that work 24/7, that do not rest, is the heart and the brain, right?
Yeah.
These are the two areas you need to look after because
Yeah.
they're just working. They're working
Yeah.
overtime. Anybody who's working overtime is prone to more stress than something that is resting. Correct?
100%.
And if by adding, by not eating the right things, particularly in the right media, you are then increasing that stress on that organ. We call it scientifically, we call it oxidative stress.
Yes.
That you're increasing that oxidative stress
Yeah.
by millionfold on these two organs.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's like you think you're doing things to
Yeah.
protect against these diseases, but
Yeah.
inadvertently you are causing repeated damage to these structures. The sad
Yeah.
part about these two organs in our body is that with repeated damage, if you lose a certain portion of that, I mean, another silly belief is we only use 2% of our brains. No, we don't use 2% of our brains. Our brains are working, the entire system is functioning. All right.
Yeah.
And uh, by doing that, once you lose a certain portion, you're almost never going to recover it.
Gotta get back. Yeah.
That's gone. And that's why you
Yeah.
have to be. So we've actually ended up with a lot of uh, a lot of neurological issues that we don't even understand. You say, oh, but there's no family history of this. There's no family
Yeah.
history, but what you've been doing to yourself
Yeah.
unknowing,
Yeah.
completely unknowing, has
Yeah.
caused you to reach this point.
Yeah.
And can we reverse it? I'm not sure about being able to completely reverse it, but
Yeah.
definitely arrest it and prevent further damage.
Right. I mean, as much, it depends, like now, the reversal of course, everything depends on the degree of the damage done or the extent of what's happened. I'm sure reversal can happen till an extent. Again, but that
Because
doesn't mean that just because 100% is not possible, you don't begin your journey. You know, it's always that little gap between, do I want to do it all or do I just want to begin doing it? So I think that particular attitude also with people needs to sort of be checked and, just sort of inculcated and I would say encouraged, maybe.
it's 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 completely true, and the fact is, how much reversal can occur? A lot, okay, a lot. Um, but it is so simple. The fact is, we've all been led to believe that it's a lot more
Believe it's
complicated.
not.
Yeah,
Yes, yes. And it's the simplest things which are the most difficult to do. So if you tell someone wake up at 8 a.m., I mean, that's a very, very trivial example. But tell someone it's as simple as waking up at 8 a.m., they're not going to do it because the simplicity of it, the complexity of the human mind makes you question the simplicity of the answer that you're getting from a very, very knowledgeable person on the other end.
but
So, I mean, yeah,
the problem is that the answer you can derive is a simple one. I mean, the
yeah,
difference between someone who hasn't studied science or medicine, or is that we can understand, we can read the scientific texts, we can understand, and we can then translate. So that's all the training and the experience, but we've been taught how to do that and then translate it back into simple terms. If I started speaking to you now in terms of the biochemical names of substances and the reactions, and you'd be staring at me thinking, what is this man on?
yeah,
So to get it down to an essence, it is a very simple thing to do.
yeah,
But
yeah,
sometimes, and I found this, sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things to do for human beings.
100% there.
And on that note, we'll wrap up today's conversation with Dr. Sidharth Sahni. And before we go, we'd like to thank Sonalika Singh for her insights and her time. To find out more about Sonalika's work, visit her Insta handle, which you can find in the description below. Hope you enjoyed In Conversation with Dr. Sidharth Sahni. Subscribe and stay tuned for more.